Hey everybody, welcome back. In this video, we're going to look at an example of a confidence interval for the population mean with an unknown population standard deviation. So in this example, we're given that Valencia boasts about having small class sizes, and they state that the average class size is 23 students on their website. From a random sample of 41 classes from the Winter Park campus, the average number of students per class was 22.2 with a standard deviation of 4.2. Perform a 95% confidence interval to determine if it is different from what Valencia has reported. All right, so some context. The Valencia website claims that their population average is equal to 23, right? And the problem wants us to calculate a 95% confidence interval to kind of see if this is true, right? We're not just going to assume it's true. This is kind of what they're claiming, right? But we want to see if what they're saying is true. So we're going to perform a confidence interval, and we'll talk about kind of how we can answer this question after we calculate the confidence interval. We need a few things to do this, right? We need our sample size, which we're given here is 41 classes, and we're told the sample average from that sample of 41 classes was 22.2. So on average, there were 22.2 students in each class, right? And then the sample standard deviation was 4.2. So our S of X is equal to 4.2. And so the only thing we need to find is a t-value of alpha over 2. So how can we find this? Well, we can go back one slide to our t-table. It looks like our sample size is 41. So this means our degrees of freedom, that'll be equal to n minus 1. So 41 minus 1, we have 40 degrees of freedom. And we know our confidence level is 95%. This was given to us from the problem. So if we go back one slide, we can go down our rows of degrees of freedom until we find 40 right here, right? And we were told that we were looking for a 95% confidence interval. So if we go up and over to where these two meet, then we can use this t-value of 2.021. So this, I'll write it here, 2.021. So now let's go back to our problem. And now we have everything we need, right, to perform our calculation. Just a reminder, our formula for a 95% confidence, or for a, I'm sorry, excuse me, any confidence interval for the population mean with an unknown standard deviation is x bar plus or minus our t-value, right, multiplied by the standard deviation of x over the square root of the sample size. So we have all of this information right from our problem. So it's really just finding that t-value and then plugging in everything else and doing the arithmetic. That t-value we found, right, was 2.021. And we'll multiply it by our standard deviation, 4.2, divide by the square root of 41, right, which is our sample size. So let's do this piece really quickly over here. So the square root, I'm going to say 4.2 divided by the square root of 41. The square root of 41, I get 6.403. 6.403. So if we do 4.2 divided by 6.403, that equals 0.6559. Okay, so we've got 0.6559, right? Just replacing that here. We need to multiply that by 2.021, and then we need to plus or minus the sample mean, which is 22.2. So now if we just calculate 2.021 times that 0.6559, I get, sorry, I lost my mouse. So this, I get 1.3256. And so now all we have to do is add and subtract 22.2 from our margin of error, right? The margin of error in this problem is 1.3256. So when we add 22.2 to that, we get 23.53 if you round up. And if you subtract 22.2 from the 1.3256, you get 20.87. So what do we say? We say we are 95% confident at the true population proportion of Valencia's class size is between 20.87 and 23.53 students. So the question wants us to determine if it is different than what is reported by Valencia, right? Is what Valencia's stated, does our confidence interval support that, or does it contradict it? So pause here, take a look at our interval and see what you think. I would say that our confidence interval supports Valencia's statement, right? Because 23 is included in this interval, right? So if we're saying that the true population mean is between 20.87 and 23.53, well, what they've claimed, that value of 23, it's inside of our interval, right? So it aligns, right, with the confidence interval we've created. If our confidence interval was 20.87 to 22.53, 22.5, this does not include 23, right? 23 is greater than 22.5, so it's outside of our confidence interval. So this would contradict Valencia's statement. It would contradict it somewhat in a good way, right? In this case, because Valencia is boasting that they have small class sizes, and the interval that we've created is, sorry, I keep losing my mouse, is actually saying, hey, your class sizes might even be smaller on average, right, than 23 students. If our interval was, the interval we created was 23.5 to 24.7, well, now 23 is still outside, right? But now, what are we saying? We're saying we're 95% confident that the true average class size for Valencia is greater than the 23 that they've claimed, right? 23.5 to 24.7 are strictly greater than 23. So this would kind of be bad for Valencia, or show that, you know, their class sizes on average are even bigger than what they're stating, which would not really help support this claim that they have small class sizes. Okay, so in the next video, we will take a look at this next example